33 years of law enforcement, this is the worst treatment of humanity that I've ever witnessed.
So the case that we're going to be looking at in today's video is absolutely mind-bogglingly crazy, and this just came out this week, and it is an alleged crime, so I'm going to say the alleged crime that took place is absolute pure insanity. We'll get into all of the details, but there was this fire, and then this lady was like, oh, you need to go in and save my stepson, he's still in the house. Firefighters went in, they looked, and there was a whole bunch of different locks on the doors, and this man that they found inside the door with all the locks on it was 68 pounds, and he claimed that he'd been held captive there for the last 20 years by this stepmom. So let's get into this.
When authorities were called to a home on fire, they were looking for anyone who may be trapped inside.
Officers and fire investigators quickly realized that there was a room in the house that appeared to have locks on it from the exterior portion of the house.
A 32-year-old man was locked inside that room.
It's the moment cops rush to what's being called the House of Horrors.
Who else is in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
Listen, that's it. I have 2 cats.
That's stepmother Kimberly Sullivan holding her dog.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come out. Come down the road. Come on, come on. It's not safe to stay here. Come on.
All right, here he is. All right, my dog is shaking.
Then you see a firefighter carrying out her emaciated 32-year-old stepson.
Got one victim right here.
Firefighters say he told them, I want my freedom. He's 5'9" tall and weighs only 68 pounds. He was taken to an ambulance. Today, the house in Waterbury, Connecticut is all boarded up, but for more than 20 years, the stepson says he was locked in a small 8 by 9 foot storage space on the second floor. He was given only 2 sandwiches a day and had to drink water from the toilet. Longing for freedom, he set fire to the house using printing paper, flammable hand sanitizer, and a lighter.
They began to speak to the male victim, who disclosed that he was being held captive in the house for an extended period of time.
The man was treated for smoke inhalation, and police say he admitted to setting the fire to gain his freedom. He also told them he'd been held captive for more than 20 years by his stepmother since he was about 11 years old. He said he was only fed 2 sandwiches and 2 cups of water a day. Authorities say he was held in an 8 by 9 foot storage room with no heat or air conditioning, and he suffered serious physical consequences. According to a police affidavit, the 32-year-old is 5 feet 9 inches tall and just 68.7 pounds.
There's a lot of physical therapy that he'll have to go through. There's a lot of healing that he'll have to go through.
And the worst part of this case, in my opinion, which we'll get into in a minute, is that apparently there were signs of this abuse for literally years. The schools tried to report it so many different times and nothing was done about it. And then she allegedly took her kid out of school. So I'm like, doesn't that raise all of the bright red alarm bells? You pull out your kid out of school after having the complaints about the CPS or whatever they call it in the United States.
When flames woke her, the stepmother called 911.
Please hurry. There's a fire.
Okay.
Oh, my God. There's a fire. My son, stepson is in his room.
Did he get injured? Is he on fire?
Yes, he's injured.
Where is he injured?
I don't know. He's I don't know. I don't know. He's kind of passed out. He's out of it.
That's the window that will probably haunt me and my family for years to come. It's just shocking to know that there was even a boy I never even knew of, and that was living in that room.
I spoke with Kimberly Sullivan's attorney, John Colitis.
The father dictated how the child would be raised.
But he died a year ago, right?
1 year ago, correct.
So what's been going on in the last year?
Well, he hasn't been a child, he's been an adult for the last 18 years. There's been no restraint. There's been nothing preventing him from leaving the house.
How does she then explain the condition of this man?
In our system, she doesn't have to explain anything.
According to law enforcement, authorities went to the home twice in April of 2004. The first visit was a welfare check requested by the Department of Children and Families.
Officers went to the house. The house was clean. It was lived in. They spoke to the victim at that point in time, and there were no cause for any alarm.
Later that month, the family attempted to file harassment charges because the school district continued reporting the family to DCF. The affidavit says after that, His stepmother pulled him out of school.
It's just unfathomable that anyone could treat someone this way.
The alleged victim says he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom and instead had to use bottles and newspaper. His stepmother, Kimberly Sullivan, was arrested on charges of assault, second-degree kidnapping, and first-degree unlawful restraint. Her attorney says the allegations against her are not true.
Absolutely not true. He was not locked in a room. She did not restrain him in any way. She provided food. She provided shelter. She is blown away by these allegations. Over the coming weeks, we're going to get a lot more information, and we're going to prepare our response to each and every one of the allegations.
Got one victim right here.
The fact that lawyers like this can sleep at night is like beyond. So you mean to tell me that this man that you allegedly have not been holding captive is just locking himself into a room with a bunch of different locks, and that he's become 68 pounds in living in your house and you did absolutely nothing about it? How does she explain the kid just like randomly being pulled out of school and disappearing from the public 20 years ago? Like, where are all the other family members?
32 years old, just 68 pounds, and 20 years in captivity, allegedly. An emaciated Connecticut man's physical appearance so horrifying and shocking that his uncle told police, quote, "He looks like a Holocaust survivor." How did he get to this point? Who knew? And why are we just hearing about this now? Well, the man, who officials are calling male victim 1, tells police that the last time he left his family property was when he was 14 or 15 to dispose of yard waste with his dad. He says his dad and stepmom starved him and physically abused him since he was a child. And that things got so bad, he started stealing, eating from the garbage, and drinking toilet water. Then came the alleged confinement, a punishment, he says, for sneaking food. But things got even worse just over 1 year ago when his dad died. His stepmother allegedly became even more restrictive, deadbolting him in an 8-by-9-foot room where he says he would stay for 22 to 24 hours a day. I want you to look at this next photograph carefully. You're looking at the inside of the home where it all allegedly took place. It may be the only glimpse we get into the space where male victim 1 allegedly suffered these abuses.
Information was very guarded on what was released and you know, when he was able to see other members of the family and other members of the community.
The man said he couldn't find other ways to get help, such as by getting someone's attention through the window.
He was fearful that if he broke that storm window or tried to open it up, that there would be some retaliation.
The Department of Children and Families were called to the home twice. The man told police he was forced to lie about his true living conditions.
Officers went to the house was clean, it was lived in, they spoke to the victim at that point in time, and there were no cause for any alarm or any conditions that existed that would have led officers to believe anything other than a normal childhood.
Police were called back in April, this time by the family who wanted to file a harassment complaint against the members of the school district.
Saying that they were continuously reporting them to DCF and felt that they were trying to get the family in trouble and have the family investigated. We have no further information about where that went, other than there was no proof provided by the family that there was any type of harassment that was occurring.
The man told investigators he was pulled from school in the 4th grade because of DCF. Mayor Penarewski said city leaders will make sure the systems are working in the future.
Of this victim.
I mean, the conditions were just deplorable. As the chief said, it was a small area. He was held in 9 feet by 8 feet. The windows wouldn't open, the door locked from the outside. It was a dormer room. The ceiling sloped down, so there's issues around that. He was allowed out for about between 2 hours or 15 minutes in that range once a day, was fed 2 bottles of water and 2 sandwiches a day. That's all he had. He had to rig a makeshift way to drain the urine out of the bottles that he had in the room while he was in there. So it's unfathomable to think of what he went through.
And this is somebody who's 32 years old now. I mean, the arrest warrant in that he alleges that he was held captive in that house since he was 11. But he remembers the abuse going back to when he was just 3 years old. I mean, how were they able to possibly hide this alleged abuse for so many years?
Well, you know, he was withdrawn from school when he was going into 4th grade, when he was about 11 years old. He was homeschooled, and there's really no connection between the the city or the state and families that are being homeschooled here in Connecticut. There was a lot of psychological and other intimidation that went on with him. When people came to the house, he was told to be quiet. They rarely had any visitors. And I think over time, his stepmother was telling him that, if he behaved himself, she would try to let him out more. So she kind of was able to control him that way as well.
This story just makes me so sad. I can't imagine being 32 years old and being held captive for that many years. If you're new to my channel, I was kidnapped as a child. I've talked about it here on my channel, but I was never held captive, so I can't relate to that. But I'm just like, my heart goes out to anybody that's a victim like this.
Thinking about, I have elementary school students, children myself, and the idea of all the many steps that must have failed this person. I mean, the victim's former elementary school principal is speaking out, saying that the school notified the Department of Children and Family Services on several occasions. Listen.
We knew it, we reported it, not a damn thing was done. That's the tragedy of the whole thing. Everyone really was concerned with this child since he was 5 years old. You knew something was wrong. It was grossly wrong. Sorry we couldn't do more because you went through more than any of us ever will go through in our lives.
I never in a million years would have thought that was happening across the street from me.
It's hurting me, just to see that little boy, just there and being hurt. God knows what they did to him,
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. He was always upstairs on the second floor on the window, looking like a little ghost. Like he was pale, like white. And then I'm like, I don't know why maybe he doesn't like to come out. But I never thought anything was wrong.
All we have right now are allegations. And yes, sometimes allegations look bad, but that's why we have a process. And that's why we have a defense. And we intend to mount one in this case. And we intend to push back on all the allegations that have been made against her.
I've been out here, I don't know how many times, with the dogs, cutting grass. If you would have just tapped on the window and said, help me.
Kimberly Sullivan appeared in court on March 12th and was released on bond the following day. She and her attorney maintain her innocence and expect the case to go to trial.
The details are horrific. It's an 11-page warrant. I think there may be some additional investigation that needs to be done, and we can talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the charges for a minute. The charges are 5 different charges. The totality of the charges is about 50 years of exposure. That would send this defendant to jail, theoretically, if she was convicted of all of them, for the rest of her natural life. And she'd be put in a 6x8 cell, which is a little bit larger than the room in which this victim has alleged to have been held in. The charges are kidnapping, cruelty to persons, and assault. Then we get into what's the motive. The motive could be that she was looking for financial gain. Potentially, she was married to we believe the husband, her husband rather, was the father of the victim. Did he leave money to the child? Was she controlling the money? Was she getting benefits from the state or from the federal government? So it could be for financial reasons that she did this. That's something that needs to be investigated, I believe, a little bit further.
So that's about all we have on this case as of right now. It is all alleged because this is still an ongoing case, so she hasn't been convicted of anything, but I would say that the evidence points strongly to this being factual and that this man is definitely a victim. But the only things that I guess would be left to question is like his mental capacity and stuff like that, because that's going to come into play in court. But other than that, I don't see how you can explain away, because so far, like, what is her evidence? Just her saying that she didn't do it? Like, there's so much evidence pointing against her, and I don't think that you can just say, like, oh no, I just put 12 locks on the door, or he put 12 locks on the door for funsies because we just love doing that here at our house. It's like a cute little joke. Like, no, this man was the real life Harry Potter. But let me know what you guys thought of this case, and I may keep you guys updated on this with ongoing coverage that comes out, because I'm assuming that this case is going to absolutely blow up in the media. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.